Or Daf Lamed Zayin in Maseches Gittin in the Bavli. We're 9 lines from the top by the words Tnan Hossam. Tnan Hossam was taught over there in the Mishnah. We only write the prusbul if it's on the ground. If the loan is meshubad, if there's a karka, it's meshubad to the loan. In other words, you lend money. Reuven lends money to Shimon. Shimon has property, he has a lien, and it's written in the contract that if he doesn't pay back his property, then he'll give him the if he doesn't pay back his loan, he'll give him the property. The reason is because such a loan is the most common way of doing loans. Most people only want to lend money to people who have property so that they can take away the property if their loan doesn't get repaid. So therefore, when you write the prusbul, it's only in the most common type of loan. The chacham are only going to make takonos for common loans, not for all loans. It's interesting. You would think once they're already making a prusbul, make it for every type of loan. But no, only for the loan that has property attached to it. In main law, what if the guy doesn't have property and you want to have a prusbul, so you want to get paid no matter what, even if it's Shemitah passes? You give him a little bit of your field. How much is a little bit? Even the stalk of a cabbage. Rav Yehuda said that even if you lent him space for your oven and so on, you could write a prusbul. So the Gemara asks the question, is that so? Hillel said you only write a prusbul on an otzitz that has nokuv. In other words, that it's attached to the ground. That there's a plant with a hole in it, a potted plant with a hole in it that is attached to the ground. Only if it has a hole. In other words, you can't just lend them place for your oven. There's the place of the potted plant. We're talking about it's on pegs, so there is no place of the plant. Maybe the pegs belong to the other guy. You just own the plant; it's in the midair, so it needs to have a hole in it for it to be considered proper. Ravashi gave over the trunk of his palm tree and he wrote a prusbul on it. The chum of the Beir Ravashi, they didn't even have a star. They did a bal peh. They gave the words over to each other. I guess when it's a Talmud Chacham, you're able to do such a thing. He really gave over the words of the intent. He did it orally, the prusbul to the Rechibar Abba. He asked, do I need anything else? You don't need anything else. Siman Samach Zayin Sif Chof. Okay, Tanur Rabbanon. What if you don't have property, but the guarantor has property? You can write a prusbul. You and your guarantor don't have property, but someone who owes you money, someone who owes the borrower money, has property. You can write a prusbul from Rav Nos. How do we know that if Reuven owns Shimon and Shimon owes Levi money, you take straight from Reuven and give it to Levi? So to here, because the person who owes you money has property, you can write the prusbul on that property. So now Nosam was taught in the Mishnah, Shemitah cancels the debt, whether you have a star, you have a contract, or you don't. Whether you have the star. When we say star, it means a star that has a charayis, that there's property there. If it doesn't have property attached, and in both cases, according to that opinion, the Shemitah is going to be mishametes esamil. It'll cancel the debt. We're not talking about prusbul. We're just talking about how Shemitah is supposed to cancel the debt, both if there's property attached or if there's no property attached. Milval, kolshkin milval. How much more so if it's just oral? There's no star. When we say star, it's if there's no property attached. Without a star, it means orally, which fits better with the words. But if there's property attached, there's no shemitah. You don't even need a prusbul. So that's different than what we said before. Tani can say that Rabbi Yechon Lakish is a brisa that supports Rabbi Yechon Shimon Lakish. It says, "Star choiv mishamit." What? Shtar choiv mishamet. If you have a bill, a document, the Shemitah still cancels it. If there's property attached, ain't a mishamet. There's another right that supports him also. If he clearly delineated and marked the borders in his debt, that with the property that he'll pay back, if he doesn't pay back with cash, there's no Shemitah. The property takes a place. It's as if he collects. Even if you said you just said generally, all my property is going to be responsible for you for this debt. There's no Shemitah. So now we have a story, very interesting story. The relative of Ravasi had a star that there was property attached to it. So the question is, did the Shemitah cancel the star or not? Also, the Ravasi, he went in front of Ravasi. He said, "Did the Shemitah cancel my debt or not? The money that I'm owed." The money that I'm owed, yeah. He said it's not canceled because there's property that you're also owed property. Shavkev also the committed Rabbi Yechanan. He left him and he went in front of Rabbi Yechanan. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to go from one Rav to another. You're supposed to just stick. The Rav tells you something. That's it. You don't go shopping around for different Rabbanim. So he went to Rabbi Yechanan and I lost my spot. Yeah. So Shavke also the committed Rabbi Yechanan Amar leMishamet. Rabbi Yechanan Farkert. He said that the Shemitah does cancel this star. Also, Ravasi the committed Rabbi Yechanan Amar leMishamet to Mishamet. Ravasi went in front of Rabbi Yechanan and he said, "Does it cancel it or not cancel it?" Amar leMishamet. He said it cancels it. V'amar Dom Ein Mishamet. You yourself. You and Rabbi Yechanan Rish Lakish himself said it's Ein Mishamet. That if there's property attached, it's Ein Mishamet. Just because we said that, and that's what it seems according to our logic, according to our svara, nasa maisa, this is how we're actually going to paskin. No, I'm not sure. It's a big lesson. Just because someone says something, it doesn't mean that that's the halacha. Omer Lei, Tani could say tomorrow, don't you have a supporting brisa? Omer Lei Dilma, he Beishami, it could be the opinion of Beishami. Omer Starei Meligves could go Vidami. A star that you're going to collect, it's as if it's already collected. And Rashi says the case in Maseches Soita Daf Chafei. If a woman's husband died before she drank the Soita water, Beishami says she takes her ksuba because it's as if she's about to collect it. It's as if she collected it already. And she doesn't drink the water. Isil says no, she doesn't do either. She doesn't drink the water, she loses her ksuba. And also, we have a mission over there. Somebody who lends his friend money, but he gave him collateral. If you give your status to Bezin in Mishamtim, there's no Shemitah. Makes sense if you give your status to Bezin. So Bezin will take it for you. That's the whole idea of the principle. But what's the reason why if you have a collateral, there's no such thing as Shemitah? Because you grab the mashkin. If you're living in the same courtyard that you just grab it, so we should say it's okay and there's no shemitah. The mashkin he owns. How do we know if a debtor has a mashkin and he owns it? Pasuk says you have to return it every day. And it says it'll be a stalker for you. Why is it a stalker for you if it doesn't belong to you? From here we see that a balchayv will acquire the mashkin. Tanan hosom hamachzer chayv lechaveda b'shvis. We're in the next page. Someone who returns a debt to his friend on shvis. He has to tell him, I'm being mishamet. In other words, if you don't have a principal and you want to pay your friend back, the friend has to say, there's Shemitah. We're talking about after the Shemitah year, Rashi says, because Shemitah only cancels the debts at the end of the year. So you have to say at the end of the year, mishametani, I forgive the debt. If the friend will say, nevertheless, accept the money, you can accept it from him. Chacham would be happy if you did that. The person owed the money has to diber. He has to say that it's shmita. Can't just collect the debt. Rabba says, Rashi explains, if the person says, I want to pay the debt, and then you say it's shmita, and he says, nevertheless, and then he changed his mind, you decide, you know what, it is shmita, I don't want to give it, you could force him, you could hang him until he says, I want to give it to you. Even so, Baya asks him from a brisa, it says, when he'll give it to him, he doesn't say it's because of my debt. He has to say it's mine and I'm giving it as a gift. Says you'll hang him until he says this. So then the Gemara has it's a bit of a humorous. There's a story where Rabba didn't do that. Abba bar Marta do Abba bar Minyomi. Have a masik be Rabba Zuze. Abba bar Marta, who's Abba bar Minyomi. Rabba lent him money. He owed Rabba money. I see he brought it to him after the Shemitah year. Rabba said, Mishamitan, it's Shemitah. The loan is canceled. Shaklinu v'yozal. He took it away. So Abba bar Minyomi took the money away. Also, Abaye came and he saw that Rabba was sad. Why are you sad? This is what happened. I said the loan is canceled, so he took his money back. He came to Abba bar Minyomi. Did he bring money to Rabba? And he said yes. What did Rabba tell you? He told me that Shemitah it's canceled. Did he tell him nevertheless I want to pay you? He said no. If you would have told him he would have taken it from you. Now you should bring it to him. Tell him he went, he brought it to him, and he said Rabba took it from him. He didn't have das. He didn't know what he was doing. This time at Chacham. Meikora in the beginning. We're the Gemara down on the bottom. Woman of Yehuda, Rav Nachman, a person is believed to say, I had a principle and I lost it. By the time he came into the Kinderban principle, the Chum made it easy to for him to do a principle. We don't believe that he's going to go ahead and not do it. It's interesting, Rabbah didn't do it. For some reason, Rabbah didn't do it. But especially if he says he had and he lost it, there's a lot of nemonis. We believe that Chacham gave him a special takana. Why would he not use it? When a story happened in front of Rav where they didn't have a principle, he reminded them, did you have a principle? Such a situation, you're allowed to open the mouth for the mute person, you could tell him. If we have a Baal Chayv who takes out his what he's owed and there's no principle, they don't pay. So we see that he's not able to say I had a principle and I lost it. Tonight it's a machlokes. Tanya, someone who takes out a shtar chayv needs a principle. The Chum say he doesn't need it. Because the Chum hold, we'll believe him if he says I had it and I lost. Okay, we're now up to the Mishnah on Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis. I guess we'll learn a little bit of this Mishnah. We're not going to do the whole thing. The Mishnah says like this.
Hi, David.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
We got to the Mishnah now. We just reached the Mishnah on Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis 37b. We finished all the way from. We almost did a Daf so far.
Got it.
Okay, so the Mishnah says, Eved shenishbo, if you have a servant who is enslaved. No, I'm sorry. If you have an Eved Kanani who was captured by a goy, by an Eved Gechavim, so he was owned by a Jew and then he was captured by a non-Jew. So this Eved is also considered a Jew. He's an Eved Kanani. He's mitzvahs like a woman. And a third party redeemed him. So they redeemed him, not necessarily having in mind to return him to the first original master. If they redeemed him as a slave, like they paid him to buy him, so then yishtabit, he'll be a slave. If for him to be free, then he'll be free. In both cases, he's going to be a slave. He's not going to be free. In both cases, he's going to be considered like a slave. So the Gemara asks like this, but my skin, what are we talking about? If you're going to say we're talking about that the original owners didn't give up hope that they would get their slave back. So we'll explain. If they redeemed him for a slave, they're bringing him back to his original master. So you stab it in his original master because there's no yush. But then the question is, if it's lifnei yush, even if you redeem him as a free person, if the third party wants him to be free, they don't have that right. He really belongs to the first master. So how are they allowed to do it l'shum ben chayret? Doesn't make any sense. It should be, what's it called? He should always go back to his original master if it's lifnei yush. You understand?
Well, really, no, because if the original master had enough money to free the guy, he would have freed him. He doesn't have enough money, so this slave is staying in the goy's hand forever. So if somebody comes and he wants to free him, he has the right.
Interesting. Maybe he didn't even know there was an opportunity to redeem him. Saying, if you have proof that it was the Achar Yush, that he had given up hope, he didn't have the money. So that's a different story. That's the Achar Yush. We're talking about his Lifnei Yush. We're talking about he didn't give up. So how are you allowed to redeem him? L'shum ben chayr. So Abaye has an answer. Amar Abaye, li'olam lifnei yush. He didn't give up hope. The original master didn't give up hope. L'shum eved. If you're redeeming him for an eved, he'll go back to his first master. Even if you wanted to keep him for yourself, he goes back to his first master. However, l'shum ben chayrin, if you want it to be free, lo yishtabed, lo l'rabbi lo l'rabbi sheni, he can't be enslaved neither for his first master or second master. L'rabbi sheni lo yidol l'shum ben chayrin parke, not for the second master because he redeemed him as a ben chayrin. L'rabbi rishon nami loy, also not l'rabbi rishon dilma mimani v'le parke, because maybe they will not redeem him. Basically, there's a mitzvah. You don't want him to stay under the goy forever, like my father just said. So even if it's lifnei yush, if you redeemed him, the Rabbi Rishon, if you deemed him the Shem ben Chayrin, Yitaka goes free. Because exactly the sort that my father said. Because the guy, his original master is not redeeming him, and we want it to be redeemed, and maybe the guy is only going to be willing, the third party is only going to be willing to redeem him if he goes free. So he has to go free. Rishon Gamliel holds no matter what, he'll go back to his first master. Just like it's a mitzvah to redeem those who are free, it's also a mitzvah to redeem slave. So we're not worried that he's going to hold back and not redeem him if we say, oh, he can't go free. He's going to redeem him. No matter what, he's going to redeem him. So we're not worried. Rava Omar li oilam. L'achar yush, Rava says, really, l'achar yush. L'shum eved yishtabed l'rabbi. In other words, the original master gave up hope. L'shum eved yishtabed l'rabbi sheni. So if you're redeeming him as a slave, we're talking about that he goes to you. Now, you obviously, if you want to, you could acquire him for the first master, but why would you do that? It's going to you. But if you're redeeming him to be free, then he's free. It makes a lot of sense. He doesn't go back to his, doesn't go to a new master because he redeemed him in order for him to be free. He also is not going to go back to his first master because it was after he gave up hope. Holds even lachar years she should be enslaved. He's going to be enslaved no matter what, in every situation. This is a much stricter view against the Eved. Why did they say that no matter what he has to be enslaved? Every person shouldn't go throw themselves under an army, and then he'll be freed. He'll hope to be freed. I mean, it's worse to be under the army, but we're afraid the slaves will do that. So we say no matter what, you're going to be enslaved again. Obviously, you have an option of freeing them, but the original master has to free him. Even if it's lachar yush, the new guy can't just free him. It doesn't work like that. So that's Chizkiah. Now, obviously, Rishon Gamliel is before Chizkiah. We're saying that Chizkiah is according to Rishon Gamliel. Meisvei, we have a question on Rabba's opinion. We see clearly he said, just like it's a mitzvah to redeem those who are free, it's also a mitzvah to redeem the slaves. So we see clearly Rishon Gamliel holds that there's a mitzvah, that the reason that we're talking about lifnei yish, and even if he redeemed him, L'shem ben Chayrin, we're not worried that he might not redeem him, because it's also mitzvah to redeem slaves, according to Rishon Gamliel. Makes sense according to Abai that he said we're talking about lifnei yish. That's why it says kishem, that Rishon Gamliel is not worried they're not going to redeem it. But according to Rava that he says we're talking about lachar yush, why would Rishon Gamliel say kishem? Hi kishem. It's not kishem, nothing to do with the kishem. It's lachar yush, he should go free. Only reason why he wouldn't is mishum de Chizkiyahu, because of Chizkiah. And he didn't know what they held. This is what he told them. If you're talking about lifnei yush, hanu kishem, still the slave will be enslaved because it's lifnei yush for sure, because it's lifnei yush, and we're not worried that he's not going to redeem him. If you're talking about lachar yush, so then he should go free. Like Chizkiah says, he's not going to go free. According to Rava, that he says we're talking about lachar yush, and if he buys him to enslave him, he'll go to the Rabbi Sheni. The question is, Rabbi Sheni miman kanile. Where did he get it from? Where is he buying it from? How does he have the koch to buy him, this slave, the Eved Kanani? In other words, Mamela, while he was a guy, so the guy could sell their own, and a yid will buy a guy from a guy, he'll turn into an Eved Kanani. A yid will buy a guy from a guy, he'll turn into an Eved Kanani. But here we're talking about he's already an Eved Kanani, he's a yid. So how does the second buyer able to buy him? Well, who's he buying him from? He's definitely not buying him from the first yid. He's buying him from the guy. How does this make sense? So Gemara says Mishabai. He's buying it from the Shabai, from the captor. Shabai Gufei mi Konile. How does the Shabai have an ownership over a yid? In Konile the Maisi Yodav, he acquires him for the work of his hands. How do we know that one guy can acquire another guy for the work of his hands? It says a double lashon. Mehem tiknu again. We learn from the extra words mehem tiknu. So Rashi explains they own their work of their hands. That when they sell one guy to you, you acquire the work of their hands, and then when you dunk them in the mikveh, you acquire them. L'shem avdus, and you give them the milah. You could buy from them, they don't buy from you. They don't buy from each other. You might think they can't acquire each other. We're on Daf Lamed Ches and Alf on the top. What do you mean you might think they can't? You just said that they can't. You acquire from them, but they don't acquire from each other, and so on. They don't acquire from you. But they don't acquire each other legufa. You might think that they don't acquire each other for the work of their hands. There's a kavul chaymer. A guy is able to buy a Yisrael. Sorry, a guy could buy a yid. How much more so should a guy be able to buy a guy? How do we know a guy could buy a yid? We see in the pasuk that we're talking when we talk about redeeming, we talk about Aker. That's talking about a guy. How does a guy buy a yid? L'maisi yodav. So to a guy will buy a guy l'maisi yodav, and then when you acquire him and you dunk him in the mikveh, he turns into yours. So the Gemara says, maybe it's only if he buys with money, but not if he takes by force. I'm in Moav. The lands of Ammon and Moav we were not allowed to conquer, but once Sichon conquered it, we were allowed to take it from Sichon. We find that a guy could buy a guy from Ammon and Moav and Sichon. Yisrael Minola. How do we know that a guy could buy a yid? It says that he took a captive from him. So the extra word Shevi, just say Vayish B'menu. Why Vayish B'menu Shevi? It's a raya that he could acquire with Chazaka. Now, even though we already said I thought we just said that you could a guy could acquire a yid. You have. Should have. Okay, we're gonna go. I'm not sure exactly. I thought it seems like there's a double lima that we already learned it from the Aker that a guy could buy a yid from the Aker. Oh, maybe that's only with kesef. How do we know with chazaka? That's the question. How do we know that a guy could buy a yid with chazaka? Through force. The answer is from vayish b'menu shevi. It says the extra word shevi. That's the force. Before we only know with money. Okay, we're gonna go to the Yerushalmi now. We're on Daf Yud Testament Aleph in the Yerushalmi. In the middle of Halacha Beis, Tamon Tninon, by the words Tamon Tninon, we're on Daf Yud Testament Aleph 19a.
Whereabouts?
Yud Testament Aleph, 9 lines from the top, in the middle of the line. Tamon Tninon. The line starts Tzorch Lahaskir Shloshtam. And if David's using the older Yerushalmi, it's Chof Aleph Amud Aleph, right in the beginning, like 2 or 3 lines in.
Which halacha is it? Which halacha?
It's the middle of Halacha Beis. 4th parak Halacha Beis.
The middle
Chof
of B?
Aleph, 21a.
Well, what page is it in my book?
21a, I said.
21?
21a. Right on the top. Tamon Tninon, maybe 2 lines in. 3 lines in. Okay, so the Gemara says, Tamon Tninon was taught over there in Bava Basra. Koisvin get liishafal pichein ish leimai. You could write a get for a woman, even if his wife even if his wife is not there, even if his wife is not with him. And you could write a shoiver that the woman was that her debt was paid, even if her husband's not with her. He has to recognize both of them. And when you're writing it, you have to know both the husband, wife, and so on. So there's no tricks. And Rababa says you have to recognize both of them. The Rabba says, Rabbi Abba, according to I think I skipped a line. The husband will pay. He just has to recognize the man and the woman. But you don't have to recognize both of them, according to Rabbi Loi. You don't have to recognize both of them. Rabbi Oven Barchia Boy came with a Rabbi. He said like this. He asked Rabbi Loi. Rabbi Loi said, you don't have to know who the woman is. What if he's going to bring a different woman and divorce her and she'll just get married with this get if she has the same name and so on? He told her, we're not worried. When she's going to want to get married with this get, we'll ask the Eidim. And the Eidim will have to be the ones to say all the details. Sounds a little weak. Are you going to really ask the Eidim? Just the fact that they're signed on the star, it's as if their testimony is signed in Bezdin. So why, if they're going to say this isn't her husband, how are we going to believe the Eidim? That's the way the Pnei Moshe explains. I mean, the simpler explanation is just why. Who says we're going to ask them? Their signature is enough. Why do you have to ask them? If they say we don't sign, we don't believe it. If we could establish the validity of their signatures from a different place. Here they say they signed, it's just not the same husband. Of course we'll believe them. There's a mission that argues under Rabba. Rabba says you have to recognize both of them. It says, but if he has to, we're talking about that the Sofer and the Edom recognize them, so why do they have to say all their names? And the fact that it says that you have to say all their names, it's a raya that he doesn't recognize them. It says the Gemara, there's people, they recognize their faces, but they don't know the names. I'm definitely one of those people. So therefore you have to write all the names. Rabbi Loi said you don't have to recognize the woman with a get. Our Mishnah is arguing because it says in our Mishnah, Hiskin Reb Shimon Gamliel Shu Kais V'Nish Plain B'Chol Shem Sheyesh Laisha Plain B'Chol Shem Sheyesh Lam P'Nitikun Oilom. You have to write all the names. So we're worried about the woman also. Masisa B'Megadish B'Al Karchei. Madam Rabila B'Megadish B'Tzin. Our Mishnah is talking about if it's against her will. If it's against her will, we're worried that she'll change her name and so on and so forth. But if we're talking about she willingly get, we're not worried that she's going to change her name. So you don't have to worry about all the women's names. There are those who wanted to say, if you're Megadish in different places, so then you have to say all their names. Madam Rabila is talking about in the same place. Kado. When we said that the husband has to give schar, he has to pay the kadot dushu, achve de dudu. There's a guy's name was Dushu, and he was the brother of Dudu. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name. He was divorcing his wife. Who mishavik itse also uvdu kemer rabban rabban hitite degro. He was divorcing his wife. The Chum said that she has to give the money to pay for the get. But tneinan abal neisan saschar, didn't we say the husband does? This will be said that the husband gives the schar if she's meichel the ksuba, but if she's not meichel the ksuba, she's also getting a no. She's going to have to pay for it. Okay, we go on. Next Mishnah. Ein almona nifras minichse yisayim el b'shvua. An almona only gets paid from the property of the yisayim with a shvua. Nimnu milashbia if they stopped making her make an oath. Nimnu milashbia. Because she's made a heter, she takes, and on a shvua is very, she would lose her ksuba. Shvua is very harsh, severe. We don't want her to get punished. So the Gemara says, "He's going to whatever they wanted to make a nether, she'll make a nether, and then she can take her ksuba. If she remarried, then she could do the shavua mechutz labezin. That's what it says in Moshe, like we said in the Bavli. Because of tikkun olam, the edim sign on the get. Hold like Rabbi Eliezer. We want to have gittim even though you don't need it. Hillel established the principle because of tikkun olam, so that people will be able to lend money and not be worried about Shemitah canceling it. Says the Gemara, in the beginning, the almones would swear falsely. They would hold the Sefer Torah, swear falsely. They would lose their kids. Because of shav, because of a false shavua. That's why it hit your sons. So therefore they cancel the shavua and they cancel the ksuba. But that's also a problem. So why do they give them nadarim? It says in the Yerushalmi they're more scared of nadarim than shavuos. Moshe explains because by nether you're making something forbidden to you, so it seems stricter. Even though they would lose their children, they didn't realize. Oh, Nishba, what if she transgressed and she made the shavua? Ravuna Amar Nishba, she made the shavua, So if she did it, she did it. Rav Amar Lakalse Ilule Dana Vatra Nafilu Klusite Dal Reshach Didihu. Rav told his daughter-in-law, it's not for the fact that I give in, that I'm a mevater. Even the cap on your head will belong to me. And we're talking about that his daughter-in-law, his son passed away. Rav's son passed away, and she wanted to get money from his son's estate. So said Rav, I guess inherited, was the one who was Yerush. Really, everything you have belongs to me, but I'll let you keep the garments you're wearing. Because you could deduct it from the amount of the ksuba. Shmuel says she does get the clothing on her. It's not counted as part of the ksuba. There's a mission that supports Shmuel. He doesn't get his wife's garments or his son's garments. It's a mission in Erchin. It says in Erchin, if someone's makdish is nechosim to the base of mikdash, he doesn't get his son's garments or his wife's garments, so it doesn't belong to him. The Gemara Maseches Ksubas tells us that even though the halacha is a grav, that nevertheless the halacha is a grav. And he only lets her have it as long as she's married to him. But the moment she's an almana, it no longer will belong to her. Rafuna says, why do they have time in the get? Because of a maisa she'ira. So it says the story. There's a story who was married, someone married to his niece, Bezinis, and she had an affair while she was married. And there was witnesses. So what he did is he gave her a get that was early, like before the time. He'd rather that she would be judged as an unmarried woman rather than as a married woman. So that's why he did that. And because of that, they said you need time, and you need to have time in the get, because there was no time in the get. It's interesting that it actually says there was time in the get. So I guess he changed the time. First he had no time, then he added in the time. Before it was optional. Now the Edom have to do it together with the time. So the Edom will see it's the right date. Make sure it's the right date. Amar Avuna Kshisa Koime Rab Achabar Yaakov Command over Maisis mi Divrei Baram Command over Maisis min Torah of Hilo Maskanal Dvar Torah. So we're talking about the Shita of Pruzbul. Avuna Kshisa said in front of Rav. No, he asked in front of Rav Yaakov. Rav Huna asked in front of Rav Yaakov. This only will fit according to the opinion that Meiser is midrabanan. So therefore, that so bisman abai sheni Meiser are dirabanan. So therefore, also Shemitah will be midrabanan. So therefore, the Chacham could say that the debt is not canceled. But according to the opinion, says Meiser is minat Torah. How could Hillel say the debt is not canceled? Torah says it's canceled. How could Hillel say such a thing? Rav Yosi. Rav Yosi how could you say that the sheet, if it's midrabanan, it makes sense? How can you compare? When it comes to ksofim, hashmatas ksofim doesn't have to do with the karka. So it doesn't make sense to say that mela meiser is fine, connected to the land. There's a shita that'll be midrabanan, but for sure it has to be. But money, it has to be deraisa. It is deraisa. Rabbi Yossi said no. When it comes to kesef, if there's a hekish, we learn one from the other kesef from karka, and just like karka is not in chutzaret, so too kesef is not in chutzaret. So therefore, when they went in Golis, they lost that deraisa they did. When the have the Shemitah on the land in Eretz Yisrael, you'll also have, in other words, Yovel. You'll also have a Shmatas Ksofim during Shemitah. However, so Hashmatas Ksofim will work both in Eretz Yisrael and in Chutzaretz as long as you have a Shmatas Karka in Eretz Yisrael. As long as the Yovel works in Eretz Yisrael, money will work everywhere. However, when the Shemitah turns into Midrabanan, the money will only be Midrabanan. So the Yerushalmi is taking first approach in the Yerushalmi is that it's only Midrabanan, that Hillel is canceling the Dirabanan, the Shemitah Dirabanan. Tneinon, there's an opinion that says, even according to the opinion that Meiser's Midiraisa, Kesef is Midirabanan. We take it out. That year, so we take out. Even if you say Meiser's is Midiraisa, Meide b'Shmita she Midivreim, there'll be Meide that Shmita is Midirabanan. So even if you say the Meiser, the tithing is Midaraisa, Shemitah will be Midarabanan. Why? Because we learn from Yovel. When the there's Yovel, there's Shemitah. When the Yovel stops, the Shemitah will be Midarabanan. In Mosai Posca Yovelis, when did the Yovel stop? It says the Chol Yeshvel. It's only when everybody, all the Shvatim were living there, but not when they had Golos. What if they're all mixed together? Maybe the Yovel will work. Yeshvel, the Chol Yeshvel, we learn it has to be all of them. So the moment Reuven, Gad, and Chatziship, Menashe were Golu, everything with Yovel was bottled. Reuven, the God, the Chatziship, Menashe, bottle Yovis, the Yovis were bottled. So the Yerushalmi clearly takes the approach that Hashmatas Ksofim is Midrabanan. I said it wrong, it's Midrabanan, and that's why Hillel is able to cancel that and say that the Shemitah will not cancel the debt. Because the whole idea of Shemitah canceling the debt nowadays is Midrabanan, so he could cancel that. And the Bavli went into the reason of Hefker Bez and Hefker. Okay, I think we'll stop here.
Okay, was